Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something that's, well, it's absolutely crucial, but so easy to skip. We're talking about that final polish, how to take a prototype that's just good and make it truly great. So let's picture this. You've put in all the hard work, you've gone through iteration after iteration, and your prototype? It works, which is awesome. That's a huge step. But I want you to ask yourself a serious question. Is it done? Or is it finished? Believe me, there's a world of difference between those two words, and that's exactly what we're going to get into. You know, people often talk about that last 1% of effort, and it's true. That's what really separates the good stuff from the truly great stuff. It's that final polish that transforms a clunky but functional tool into an experience that just feels seamless. This isn't about redoing everything. It's about honoring the work you've already done by perfecting it. All right, so where do we even begin? Well, first, we've got to know what we're looking for. We're basically going on a hunt for these little hidden flaws, these tiny moments of friction that honestly can add up and create some pretty big problems for the user. And this is a super important thing to remember. Finding these little issues doesn't mean you did a bad job. Not at all. It's totally normal for them to stick around even after a bunch of feedback and redesigns. The trick is to have a dedicated step at the very end just for hunting them down and squashing them. So what do these little gremlins look like? Well, you're probably going to recognize some of these, things like button labels that aren't quite clear, or those moments where you go from one screen to the next and it just feels a little confusing. Maybe that super important buy now button just kind of fades into the background. These are the exact kinds of things we're talking about. Okay, so how do we find all this stuff? We can't just rely on guesswork. We need a system. And that system is a final, really detailed usability audit. Think of it as your secret weapon for getting that perfect professional finish. And here's the game plan, broken down into 4 simple steps. First, you got to go through every single screen, every button, every link, no stone unturned. Second, you really zoom in on those usual suspects, the tricky areas like navigation and filling out forms. Third, you double-check your work against what we know are best practices for usability. And finally, and this is the big one, you do everything you can to eliminate what's called cognitive load. So what the heck is cognitive load? Well, it's just a fancy term for how much brain power someone has to use to figure out your product. Is it obvious what to do next? Is the text easy to read? The less your user has to think, the lower the cognitive load. Our goal here is to make the entire experience feel absolutely effortless, like second nature. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds like a ton of extra work for a bunch of tiny little details. And yeah, it is detailed work, but trust me, the payoff is huge. Let's talk about why this final push is so worth it. Here's the core idea. Small flaws have a massive, and I mean massive, negative impact. It's kind of like death by 1,000 paper cuts for the user experience. One tiny annoyance isn't a huge deal, but when you pile them up, the whole thing just starts to feel frustrating and frankly unprofessional. And this just lays it all out clear as day. Look at the difference here. On one side, a prototype with those minor flaws feels unfinished. It's confusing. It actually erodes the user's trust. But on the other side, a highly refined prototype just screams professional. It feels intuitive. It builds trust. It tells a clear story. I mean, which one of these do you want to show to your stakeholders? It's a no-brainer. So let's just quickly recap the benefits. You're not just fixing little bugs here. You are actively building user trust. You're making the entire experience better. And you're leaving an incredible impression on anyone who sees your work. It's a direct reflection of your commitment to quality. At the end of the day, doing this final audit is about pushing past good enough. It's a choice. It's a commitment to a higher standard. And it shows that you really respect the user's time and energy. And I think this quote just says it all, doesn't it? This isn't just about making something that works. It's about showing that you understand and practice professional, user-centered design. It's like the signature on your masterpiece. So I'll leave you with this one question to mull over for your own projects. What's that one final detail, that one last polish that's going to take your work from memorable to completely unforgettable? Go find it. Thanks for tuning in.